What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be working on the Tube Chassis Crew Cab OBS. In this video we're going to be...
Wait, what did you just say? How did you start that video?
What's up dudes?
What's up dudes?
We're not trying something new, dog.
We're not doing saw dudes anymore?
No more saw dudes.
You're over that or what?
Over it, dog.
Alright guys, so we've been having some complaints about the saw dudes at the start of the videos. For whatever reason, people get kind of triggered from it, so we're just going to start the videos with what's up dudes now. So just get used to that. We're not going to be saying that as much anymore.
Yeah, no more saw dudes.
Later dudes.
Later dudes. Anyways, back to today's video. We are going to be mounting the sway bar setup on the truck today. The reason we're going to be running a sway bar setup on here is because this truck is running a triangulated 4-link. Whenever you go to either a 4-link or a 3-link setup, you do end up running a coilover and a bypass, or just a coilover depending on what you're doing. But when you do that, you do end up getting a lot of body roll with the truck. So to counteract that, you want to run a sway bar either in the rear for sure. Some dudes run them in the front as well, like a lot of trophy trucks and really nice pre-runners. This truck's not going to be running anything like that in the front, just in the rear. We're going to be running some Blitzkrieg Motorsports sway bar arms. They got some nice TIG welded on ends where the Shims end up going through them. We also have a 54-inch torsion bar with 35 spline ends on them. This is some big boy stuff right here for this truck. It is going to be a very heavy truck, so I wanted the sway bar setup on here to be able to keep up. So 35 spline torsion bar for this. The way this all works is the ends of these arms have splined ends with little pinch bolts in them. And what you do is you'll end up sliding the ends of these over each end of the torsion bar. And basically a torsion bar is basically just an axle that goes into like a rear end, same type of deal, splined on both sides. And what this does is when you have both sway bar arms attached to the truck, they're fighting against each other through this torsion bar. So this will twist and do different things while you're driving to counteract the roll of the truck. So like I said, we are running the Blitzkrieg Motorsports arms. We have some 3/4-inch Shims right here that have built-in misalignment spacers. The part number for those is right here. The only difference between these two part numbers is one has an L in it right there, and the reason for that is because this is a left-hand thread. I have 2 left-hand thread and 2 right-hand thread. So depending on what you're doing, if you want to be able to adjust the piece that you're working on, you want to use a right-hand and a left-hand thread Shim to be able to adjust on the truck without having to pull the Shims off. Because when you have 2 Shims that are exactly the same, if they're both right-hand thread or both left-hand thread, you have to pull one of the Shims out to be able to adjust the length of the Shim, or the whatever the linkage is that you're putting them on. So you want to run a left hand and a right hand to be able to counteract that, and you can just sit there, spin it on the truck, and it'll either lengthen or shorten the distance of your linkages. So little key right there. That part number right there is just the Shim itself. You will also need a jam nut as well as a bung, which bung part number is right there. This is for some 1-inch OD tubing, which ends up being 1.25" 120 wall tubing that I'll be using for this. We also have our bushings that go over the ends of the tubing here, and this, or the torsion bar, sorry, and these sit inside of the tubing that will be on the truck, and this is what actually mounts the torsion bar to the truck. So that's those. We also have these end caps that go on the ends of the sway bar arms right here that cover up the ends of the torsion bars, and then we have some countersunk bolts that go into those, and they thread into each end of the axle that hold these end caps on. So you have one pinch bolt on each one of these bars that holds it down to the torsion bar, and then once that's tight, you come back, add the cap, put the bolt through it, and then that's just kind of like a safety to make sure if this pinch bolt ever comes out, then you have this holding the sway bar arm onto the torsion bar, and it can't have any way to come off of the torsion bar. Everything's sitting right here on the table. I did pick up from my boy Tyler over at CarTech Off-Road. If you guys have any questions regarding anything off-road related, or you're looking for anything off-road related, CarTech more than likely has it, and Tyler is a super knowledgeable dude. He'll definitely get you set up with whatever you need. But back to this. So the this tube right here, it's a 2-inch 120 wall tube that's built into the bed cage of this truck. That is where the torsion bar is going to be coming out of, and then the sway bar arm will go from here across over the top of the axle, and then a linkage will come down and land on the lower link. So the reason I'm landing on the lower link is because the sway bar arms that I did get are pretty long, so I want to make sure there's no weird clearances to anything. If I went to the axle, the linkage would more than likely be going backwards, which you don't really want. I mean, it doesn't technically matter, but I just don't like the way that looks. So we're going to be going to the lower link just like we did on the 92 F1 build. I do already have an issue, so this is already kind of remedied. I figured it out with the torsion bar. It's a little bit longer than the length of the tube that's in here, but this tube, if I just put the bushing that I have on here and then ran the sway bar arm out of here, I'd run directly into the bump stop mount, or the bump stop can, which obviously is not good. You want to have ample clearance. I did order a little bit wider torsion bar for this sway bar setup to be able to kick it out a little bit further and line it up more with the lower links. So I'm gonna have to sleeve this tube right here and bring it out just a little bit, but that's no big deal. I do need to get all this stuff put together now to be able to figure out how much I need to extend that. I need to get the sway bar arms onto this torsion bar with these little sleeves on there, and then I can take a measurement between the two bushings and then figure out exactly how much I need to add. All right, so this is what I was talking about. We got our sway bar arms on here, we have the torsion bar all hooked up, and then we also have our little bushing guys on here. I do need to measure from the inside of this flange right here on the bushing. So sliding that all the way to there. I did take the measurement already, so it's 51 inches exactly between the inside of this flange to the inside of this flange. 51 inches. So I did measure the truck already, the tube that's in the truck. It's 43.5 inches, so gotta subtract the distance from 51 inches and then divide it by 2, and then that'll be how much I have on each side that I need to add to be able to get this sway bar in the truck. So I did make these little sleeves already. These will go into the tube that's already on the truck. It'll go 2 inches in, and then 2 inches will be sticking out, and then the tube that I run for the sway bar itself will be sticking out past this. So I already figured it out. It's 3 3/4 inches on each side to make this work. So I'll have 2 inches sticking out. That'll give me just enough room for this bushing to slide into the 2-inch tubing that I'll be adding on top of this to slide into. So this will basically be sitting just like that. There'll be a tiny gap in between them, which will be perfect. So I just finished up getting this piece ground down. This slides into the existing piece on the truck nice and easy. And I also got the 2-inch piece, the 3 3/4 inch piece that slides over this cut as well. So just to show you guys exactly how this works, we have our piece with the sanded down section. It slides right into the tube nice and easy. There's 2 inches sticking out here exactly, which will give us just enough room outside of here, inside of this sleeve here, for the bushing to go on the end without hitting the end of this. So that goes on there, that slides right in there, mates up nice and easy. I gotta prep all this stuff before I weld it, but what I'll also end up doing is on this sleeve right here, I'll probably drill 2 rosette welds, or two holes basically, to do rosette welds on, and that will, once this is slid on, there will be a hole in here. I'll be able to weld the hole up and then also weld all the way around here, and then I'll also do another hole right here on the tube that's already on the truck. And the reason behind that is it's just helping with this tube from pulling out. I'll go ahead, drill the holes in that, prep everything, tack it all together, get everything put together, and then we can start cycling the sway bar arm, get these struts that are in here just holding the rear of the truck up out of there, so I can cycle the truck up and down, make sure there's no clearance issues, and then we can start making the linkages and then the mounts that actually mount the linkage to the lower arm. So this is a pretty simple process. It's just taking it takes a lot of cycling and just making sure everything clears, but we'll get going on it right now. Now that I have the holes drilled in both pieces for the rosette welds, I went ahead and prepped this sleeve just with some Scotch-Brite. Just wrap it around here, twist the tube a couple times, gets it down to nice bare shiny metal. Perfect for welding, so that's ready to go. We do have this sleeve that needs to go in first. So this bottoms out inside of the tube and it sticks out exactly 2 inches, which is exactly what we needed, so that's great. Slide this tube, the outer sleeve, over the top of it, and then we'll pull it off just a tiny bit. That way, when we go in here and weld this, we're penetrating completely all the way down to that inner sleeve, because if it's completely butted up like this, you're not getting full penetration on the weld. And then on these rosette welds, I decided to do them on the back side and the front side instead of top and bottom. And the reason for that is because if you're looking at the truck over the bedside when it's completely finished and you're just looking at stuff, I don't want you to see a big old plug sitting right here that's welded up on the piece of tubing. I just want it to be a nice, just kind of seamless look. So that's why these guys are going to be front and back. That way you don't really see them, but they're definitely necessary, so they got to be there. Sleeves are on the truck for good now. I got the bushings on each side just pressed in, and then I also got the torsion bar just centered up in between everything. So now we can go ahead and get the sway bar arms put on. In theory, let's see, it's this guy right here. This should be able to go just like that. So you can see, perfect fit. Now that I have both sway bar arms on, I can go ahead and start cycling everything. I do have the struts out of here. The rear of the truck is on the way to the hoist now, so I can start cycling everything properly. The way to figure out how long the linkage needs to be off of this sway bar arm is you need to first figure out, since I don't have shocks, I need to figure out the extended length of the bypass that's going on here, which is going to be the bigger shock. How to do that is there is charts online that you can find just like this. So race series, 18-inch bypass, we're looking at an extended length of 48.06 inches, and then I know this truck was built around a +3 rod end on the coilover end bypass in the rear, because the lower link pocket, you wouldn't be able to get the spring or anything out of here with just a standard rod end. So I know these are built around +3 rod ends, so we got 48 inches +3, so we're looking at 51 inches altogether from the center of this bolt hole to the center of this bolt hole right here. So I just need to jack the rear of the truck up basically to like 52 inches, just so I know there's enough clearance there, and then we can start making our linkages off of the sway bar arms. So now that this is at full droop, to figure out the length of the linkage now, you'd never want the sway bar arm and the linkage coming down to ever go fully straight. So if this is completely drooped out, you never want the arm to go straight and then have the linkage go straight off of that, because then it would be kinking itself. So now we can figure out exactly how much we need to come off the lower link up to here to make sure this angle isn't straight. So that's looking pretty good right there. This is kind of just like a guesstimate type of thing. There's no right or wrong way. On the 92 F1 build, I made the sway bar linkages super long just because I wanted the arms to be kicked up at an angle like this when the truck's sitting at ride height. So it's just another thing that I did on that truck. But on here, I'll probably end up making the linkages just a little bit shorter, basically the exact length they need to be, so this truck can be set up properly. I think it'll look the best too with having everything a little bit shorter, having the arms basically straight when it's sitting at ride height. So we'll see how that works out, but this truck is enormous, freaking massive. Here's a little bit better angle to get an idea how big this thing is. It's hard to tell on camera, but this truck is huge. I do need to figure out the length of this, so I'm thinking, going off the lower link right here, I'm thinking roughly a 1 foot piece, center to center, will work perfect for the linkage. So that means I'm gonna be using these Shims for the linkages. So center to center, if you're not familiar with what that means, that'll mean from the center of this bolt hole to the center of this bolt hole will be 12 inches overall. It's gonna take some 1.25 inch tubing to go over these bungs. It's just a 1 inch inner diameter bung. So I'll get those made right now. Here's our linkages all welded together, ready to go. I did go ahead get some anti-seize on the threads before I threaded all this stuff together, so these are 100% ready to go. I just held these up in here. It's gonna be hard to do this one-handed, but so you can see roughly how it's gonna be. But you can see this angle right here is not straight. If this was a straight angle right here, we would be binding these two pieces together when the truck is fully drooped out, which is not good. So that's good that that's at an angle there, and it isn't sitting exactly where it needs to be. The bottom of this will get kicked out a little bit further down the lower arm, and then obviously that doesn't have a bolt through it, but that's how it should look. Pretty close to how it's gonna look all said and done. So now I just need to get in there, make the tabs, get some weld washers on there more than likely, and then we'll get the tabs tacked in place. So I went ahead off camera and got these tabs made. First, I made a template out of ram board, just to the size that I needed, made sure it fit correctly, exactly how I wanted. Went ahead and cut 4 of these tabs out, and then got on the drill press and hole sawed out 4 weld washers, drilled it out to 5/8, and then welded everything together. Little sneak peek right there. We do have everything made. I'll show you guys a little trick. I've mentioned this before in other videos, but whenever I'm doing anything that has 2 tabs and something going in between, I use 20 thousandths shock shims. These are a Fox shock shim. So what I'm doing is I'm stacking 3 of them on top of each other, which will equal 60 thousandths. And then I'll put these in between the Heim and the other tab. But once I go and tack both the tabs to whatever this is going on to, and then fully weld both sides, when I pull this bolt back out and pull the shims and the misalignment spacer and the Heim back out, when I put just the Heim back in and this linkage back in without the shims, it gives just enough tolerance in there to be able to have everything slide in nice and easy. Now that I have everything tacked up and ready to go, I'm gonna go ahead and check clearances at full bump, which means the truck's gonna be at full compression, as low as it can possibly go. I'm just gonna make sure that the arms aren't hitting anything like the housing or the bump stop cans like I was worried about before. So as you can see, everything comes up, tucks super nicely. The 2 areas I was worried about was this bolt right here, maybe coming in contact with the bump stop can, but because I made the linkages so short, this doesn't even get close to the bump stop can, so we're good there. Another spot I was worried about was the back side of the housing right here to the bottom of the sway bar arm. And there is, you can't really tell, but there is at least 1.5 inches of gap here. So that's 100% good to go. This sway bar setup is ready to be fully burned in. All I gotta do now is just get those tabs welded on the lower links, and then this sway bar setup's finished. After looking at this for a couple minutes, I actually decided to add a couple more pieces to the lower mounts. So I'm actually gonna end up boxing everything in. I made some templates and then got this cut out of some steel, but I am gonna add a front plate and a back plate. And because I am boxing this completely in, and this is an open area in here, I had to make a little relief right here, and I'm not gonna weld this up. That'll be open, that'll stay open. And the reason for that is whenever this truck's getting washed or if it gets rained on, I don't want water sitting in here and just pooling up. I want it to be able to flow out and not cause any rust problems or anything like that. So just like that, all these are burned in. This side's all ready, and this side is finished as well. Super happy with this. Looks awesome. I'm trying my best to keep up with Dirt King's welding. Definitely putting some pressure on myself to get this to look somewhat the same. I don't want it to look too different, but pumped on that. I will need to come back in here and get the proper hardware top and bottom for the linkages, but for right this second, this is done. I can move on to getting the fuel cell mounted. That is gonna be the next video though, so this is gonna be it for this one. If you guys enjoyed what you were watching, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.